Six Flags New England and Lake Compounce are two amusement parks located roughly an hour from each other, and they are the two biggest amusement parks in the entire region. Each includes a sizable amusement park and water park that have been expanding in recent years. But which one of these parks should you visit? Today, I'm going to compare the various pros and cons of each of these two parks in relation to each other to help you determine if either are worth visiting for you. I'm going to break down the comparison into sections, looking at the roller coasters, the other rides in the park, the water park, the food, and then finally the overall guest experience at each park. So let's start off by comparing the roller coasters at Lake Compounce and Six Flags New England. Both Lake Compounce and Six Flags New England have world-class roller coasters that are among the best in the world. At Lake Compounce, Boulder Dash is considered to be one of the best wooden roller coasters on the planet. It is an airtime-filled experience featuring a terrain-filled layout that races through the mountainside of the park, surrounded on all sides by trees for most of the ride. For a wonderfully claustrophobic experience, it is by far the best experience in the park. With the exception of the back car, the ride also tends to be quite smooth for a wooden roller coaster of its age, and should be open to moderate and intense thrill seekers. If you're a fan of wooden roller coasters, this is really one you should try and make an effort to experience. Six Flags New England, on the other hand, features two world-class roller coasters, both of which are more intense than Boulder Dash. The first, Superman the Ride, is the park's signature roller coaster, and it is a steel hypercoaster with an incredible layout and riverside setting. This is generally considered to be one of the best rides in the world, and for good reason. With many airtime-filled hills and one of the best layouts of any coaster in the world, this is unlike anything else in the entire Northeast. It's only slightly more intense than Boulder Dash and should be accessible to most people, and is also quite smooth. But the park also has Wicked Cyclone, an incredible RMC hybrid roller coaster featuring 3 inversions and a remarkably smooth airtime-filled layout. The ride is also incredibly long, making for a wonderful experience that just seems to go on forever. This is a much more intense experience and makes for a great ride for thrill seekers, although more timid riders might not want to experience this one. Beyond their signature roller coasters, each park also has a collection of other notable roller coasters. Both have a kiddie coaster. Six Flags New England has 2, and those are really nothing special. They're nice, but nothing great. Both also have a classic wooden coaster. Wildcat in Lake Compounce dominates the park skyline and is a historic coaster, but it's also exceedingly rough, so be aware of that. Thunderbolt in Six Flags New England provides a classic wooden coaster experience, but with only one train, it often has a ridiculously long line for what is really only a good, not great ride. Both parks also have a steel boomerang coaster that is the exact same ride at both parks. Six Flags New England used to have 2, and this is really where the parks diverge in their coaster collection. Lake Compounce only has one other coaster, and it's a coaster that really is not comparable to anything Six Flags New England has, and it is their launch coaster, Phobia Fear Coaster. It is the only launch coaster in the entire Northeast, and it's an amazing experience. It's smooth, it has some great hang time, and is a wonderful part of the park. What Six Flags does have the upper hand in, though, is the total number of roller coasters in the park, although the remaining coasters that I haven't talked about yet are really quite spotty. Batman the Dark Knight is a great looping floorless roller coaster, although it is not a standout compared to other floorless roller coasters in the world. So if you've experienced other floorless rides like Bizarro at Six Flags Great Adventure, don't come expecting anything amazing. It's a great ride, but it's by far not the best of its type. The park also has a few cloned roller coasters that are found at numerous other amusement parks around the world. One of these is the Riddler Revenge, a suspended looping coaster that is an incredibly rough experience. This ride used to be called Mind Eraser, and that name was very fitting. The park also has a ride called Pandemonium, which is a spinning coaster that can be a great ride depending on how the weight is distributed in the car. I've had amazing rides on this thing. I have had incredibly tame rides on this thing. It all depends on who you ride with and where they sit. If you are looking for quality roller coasters, you can find them at both parks, but Six Flags New England just has far more overall roller coasters and more intense roller coasters overall. And with that, I'm now going to move on to comparing the other rides at Lake Compounce and Six Flags New England, not including the roller coasters. Both Six Flags New England and Lake Compounce have a large collection of rides beyond their roller coasters, but the rides that they have could not be more different. On the whole, the rides at Six Flags New England are less intense than the rides at Lake Compounce. This is largely due to the fact that most of the non-roller coaster rides at Six Flags New England are found in the two massive kiddie lands in the park. This isn't to say the park doesn't have intense rides. It does. Scream and Harley Quinn's Spinsanity are the two most notable examples, but as a whole, the rides beyond the roller coasters are really aimed at very young visitors, with only a couple aimed at older guests when you compare them to the total number of rides in the park. Lake Compounce has a more well-rounded collection of rides for all ages, taking into account the size of the park in that it's smaller than Six Flags New England. They do have a sizable kiddie land, but it is also joined by many more intense rides, especially considering the size of the park, including Downtime, Thunder and Lightning, and their pirate ship. It also has notably more mid-tier rides, with attractions like American Flyers, Wave Swinger, and more, which is something Six Flags New England really does not attempt to do as a whole. Pretty much everything is either aimed at very young kids or thrill seekers, and Lake Compounce does a better job at filling the middle ground. Again, both have great collections of rides, but very different collections of rides. And with that, I'm moving on to the water park. Both parks have a water park that is included in the admission ticket for the main park. Neither requires a separate ticket or for you to park in a separate location, and the entrance to the water park is through the main park. Lake Compounce's water park is called Crocodile Cove, and Six Flags New England's is called Hurricane Harbor. Once again, in terms of size, Six Flags easily has the advantage with far more slides, pools, and amenities. But it is worth mentioning that Six Flags really hasn't been investing in the water park a large amount in recent years, and it's been a while since the last major addition. But there is really so much in the water park that it's not that obvious unless you are a frequent visitor. There are just that many more pools, slides, and other amenities. But if you are looking for more recent additions, Lake Compounce has been investing in a multi-year expansion of their water park, which has led to a new section of the water park being added, involving multiple new slides and a wave pool, most recently bringing the park their new for 2021 attraction, the Venus Vortex Water Slide. It is smaller in scale though, and does not have the same number of intense slides that Six Flags New England does. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, but Six Flags Hurricane Harbor Water Park is undeniably the place to go over Lake Compounce's Crocodile Cove if you are looking for the biggest water park or the most slides and water attractions. The one major advantage Lake Compounce has is that they do have an actual lake and beach to go along with it, which is something that Six Flags New England simply does not have. But with expansion trends, this could easily change in the next few years, but it hasn't yet. And with that, I'm moving on to talking about the food at both parks. Both Lake Compounce and Six Flags feature a combination of chain restaurants and custom food offerings, so I'm going to discuss them in sections. I'm not including food carts, as both parks really have roughly comparable offerings in their food carts, with very similar snacks and treats offered in both parks. For the chain restaurant offerings found in the parks, you can find a Johnny Rockets at both Six Flags New England and Lake Compounce. But at Lake Compounce, you can also find a location of the iconic Pink's Hot Dogs, which is one of the only locations of the iconic chain originally found in Hollywood, California, on the East Coast. It's a great stop and a nice little hidden treat in Lake Compounce. As for original food, there are really not that many standout offerings at Six Flags New England, with most items being relatively flavorless. Not bad by any means, but far from great. Lake Compounce, on the other hand, has made an active effort to improve its food offerings over the years. The Potato Patch has always been the best overall stop in the park, but the good offerings do not end there, especially this year, 2021. For this year, they transformed what had probably been the worst restaurant in the park, the Parkside Diner, into what is now one of the best, the Timberjack Chow House, on top of offering a seasonal food festival with many great offerings, too many to mention in this video, as well as the park having several other quality restaurants as well. The food is really a lot better at Lake Compounce, and it is not a close comparison by any means. And with that, I'm going to move on to the last category, the overall park experience. And as that is sort of vague, I'm going to specify a little bit of what I mean by that. That specifically means anything I haven't talked about yet. Things like theming beyond the rides, the quality of team members, and various other random factors that make each of the parks better or worse. Parks both have a relatively similar quality of team members across their parks, and they're both very good overall. You will rarely come across a bad team member at either park. The only bad thing I can really notice there is you very often come across some pretty aggressive aggressive game workers, although I'm pretty sure that that's the intention the park wants. The layout of both parks also isn't the best. Lake Compounce's main park is fine, and there's no problems with it. It's mainly just a loop, but there is a back pathway that a lot of people don't seem to realize exists, and it's not marked very well, that takes you to the Thunder Rapids ride. So do be aware of that. Six Flags New England can also be a bit difficult to navigate due to its hillside setting and different parts of the park being on different levels. It's also just really long with a lot of dead ends. The theming at both parks is really great. Don't go expecting something Disney level, but for what the parks are, it's really good. Lake Compounce has made a lot of efforts to make their theming better, and it's really noticeable. And Six Flags New England has really always had pretty good theming, especially for its headliner attractions. I'm going to say what I think is the most notable difference in terms of overall experience between Six Flags New England and Lake Compounce is that Lake Compounce, due to its forest setting near a mountain, has a lot more shade. On a hot summer day, this can be a very important difference. There's really no shade anywhere outdoors at Six Flags New England except maybe in a couple of the queue lines. Lake Compounce, it's easy to find shade with so many trees throughout the park on top of the hillside that blocks the sun for a portion of the day. As temperatures get up there, this is a very nice feature of the park, and it can make the day a lot more enjoyable by not having to deal with the heat as much. Both Six Flags New England and Lake Compounce are great parks for different reasons, and it's just good to know all the details when you are deciding which one to visit. Personally, I would really recommend both. Lake Compounce is a more classic, family-style park that has done a lot in the last couple of years to improve itself, and hopefully that will continue in the near future. Six Flags New England is a more modern, thrill-seeker-oriented park that does also offer a lot for small children. And I love visiting both of them for different reasons. So thanks for watching, and be sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps us out, and turn on notifications if you haven't. We release new videos every day, so make sure you don't miss any of them. Which park do you prefer between Lake Compounce and Six Flags New England? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.